Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast that killed the video star, Dangerous Humans. This is a very, very special episode with some extremely special guests. Some of the audio had a little bit funky. We have a bit more reverb and echo than I wanted originally, where I was recording with a giant room that caused this weird reverb effect. So I do apologize for that. But the interview is incredible and amazing. So please, if you're listening to this, turn up a little bit louder, listen a little bit closer, and enjoy an interview with the incredible, incomparable Michael Conrad and Becky motherfucking Cloonan.
Thanks for taking the time to talk to us.
Yeah.
It's always awesome to talk to people, but it's even better when we do
Well, thank you.
Knowing you calls from strangers.
Yeah, I understand.
You might not be cool.
Working conventions for several years has taught me half the people I think are cool kind of go iffy.
Yeah, it's been a weird week for me. So I'm gonna try and bring positivity in this conversation rather than I've been kind of I don't know. I've been just dealing with some of the weird pressures that come with working on comics that people actually read.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a long history of publishing stuff, and it's always been stuff that just like your cousin read, and they never let you know anything about it, or your friends read, and they're like, yeah, that was okay, man. So now working on these books for DD, it's I don't know, there's an adjustment period of realizing that the critics and sales and stuff have been really good. It's an outspoken small group of people who are showing up, trying to tell me what to do, and trying to tell me all the things that I need to do in order to be successful or whatever.
No, I can barely imagine.
Yeah. It's Becky's job.
Well, I know, like you mentioned, you coming from a background in mental health and publishing and everything else, it's being on the forefront now, it's got to be such a different vibe.
It's so funny, it's the stuff that you always dream of turns into the nightmare. And I'm by no means in the spotlight big time. I'm still just a person who wakes up and writes, and I think everyone will feel that way forever, regardless of where you're at in your creative life. But it's really bizarre having complete strain. I got a message from somebody this morning, somebody who's been really supportive of the work that we've been doing, and was I've been having people ask me why you write so many queer characters, and you're straight. And he was making all these judgments on me, making a weird judgment, assuming that I'm straight because I'm in a straight relationship, assuming that I can't write about something that I see as completely normal. It's you write about a relationship. There you go. And I understand the subtext of something like that, which is making sure that there's space for people to tell their story, and that when a gay character shows up, that it's maybe informed by experience a lot of the time. But it just seems so grossly inappropriate to make an assumption about me and to act. He was basically asking me, hey, are you gay? Are you bi? What are you?
Yeah.
That's not the type of thing I want to necessarily offer up to a stranger.
Oh no,
that's my relationship with my own sexuality. That's for me to understand.
Oh no,
so really
100%. I think that's a fair point, because I think a lot of people, when you're even kind of in the public persona, people just think they're demanding to know, well, what's this very deeply personal part of your life? What's this deeply personal part of life? Are you allowed to write about this? And I think that can definitely weigh on anybody, especially when you're now like doing Wonder Woman, which is amazing, by the way. But so I can see where that pressure comes up.
Yeah, and Michael's very. I'm less giving, I think, on the internet. I'm just worse at it, really. Social media stuff. Like I try to put myself out there, but at the same time, I'm a little reserved, and I don't interact a ton with people, even my friends. So I think, and also like when I started making comics, I think I joined Twitter in like 2008, and it was a different platform back then.
Oh yeah.
I think now it's changed a lot. And I think the more that you open yourself up to people, you also open yourself up to people who may not have your intention, like your best intentions at heart.
Yeah,
so
they haven't developed a relationship with me as a creator. So to them, I'm just the way that they're hopefully going to get what they want out of the story.
And also, you're dealing with people who are like fans first. You know, they're fans of the character.
Yeah.
They're not fans of you, or they don't care about you. They care about what they want for this character. So there's like a different element of like writing a superhero book like Wonder Woman, who has like a long history of people who have worked on her more or less.
Yeah.
So you're getting, it's different from working on a creator-owned book where people they don't have anything else to base it on.
At the end of the day, it's super, super fun. I couldn't ask for a better thing to do with my time, and I'm so happy to have the opportunity to contribute to the ongoing mythology of a character that so many people clearly love and have really strong opinions about.
Oh yeah.
So hopefully, like as things move forward, goal number one is to get more people reading the book, because I think a lot of people they're fans of Wonder Woman in theory, or they're fans of her from other media.
Yeah. And
it would be really cool to drive readership and to further develop, what's been pretty strong for 80 years. She's only been around for 80 years because there's something really powerful there, and we'd like to contribute to year 81. Let's bring it over the threshold into year 80 and see if we can continue to build on the legacy that's been established. So it's exciting, and I don't mean to come in hot with a weird complaint.
Oh no!
I feel like it's kind of like it's the elephant in the room of my mind that I wanted to share. With people.
It was a big week on Twitter.
Well, I think you kind of have to, because I think people can dehumanize creators a lot when they don't look at them as people. And I think opening up a little bit and allowing go, hey, I am a person, not just someone who writes a comic or draws a comic. I think that allows a lot of people who listen to podcasts who actually care about the comics. Hopefully it gives them an insight to make them go, oh, maybe I don't need to send this 20-page essay to your DM about, well, my Wonder Woman does this, and this isn't this, and how dare you, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There's also, I wish people would understand too, there's legal ramifications for that too. Someone comes up and is like, hey, you should do this. I am more likely to not do that thing, because legally, DC can get in trouble if someone's like, oh, that was my idea. I did that. So it's don't tell us what to do. It's a big thing. And it's not just us saying this. Every person who works on a licensed book is going to tell you the same thing. I love reading fans. I like hearing fan theories and reading what people think about the book. It's great. But there's
what's the time you're so far in advance that if you want something to happen 4 issues from now, you're out of luck.
Yeah,
we already dug that person's grave. Don't kill us up. They dead though. But response has been so out of control, good and positive. We were kind of expecting, with Wonder Woman 770, we showed up and we were like, and here's the talking animal, and here's Diana kissing some dude.
I love the same breed.
And here she is with no powers, and here she is in a different costume.
I love her.
So we did all the things that you're not supposed to do. Similarly, over in Midnighter, we were like, let's do a time travel story.
Yes.
Everyone hates time travel. Let's do that. And one of my graphic novel Tremor Dose, it's about dreams, and there's this whole thing about how no one likes to hear about other people's dreams. So
I told Michael my dream this morning, and he was like falling asleep. I was like, and then this happened, and then that happened. And he's on his phone like, please stop talking to me.
Her dreams are so creative and fun that it's jumping.
It wasn't fun though. It was so stressful.
She almost ran over some turtles.
Yeah, they pulled out of the way this time.
That sounds like a stressful dream.
Oh no.
Yeah.
We showed up and we just tried to tell the coolest story that we could. The fact that it went over well, man, I was sweating leading up to the release of it being like, we took a big swing with this, and it was coming on the heels of Immortal Wonder Woman, which is like a super dour, different kind of pace.
Introspective, poetic, it was like very more prosy kind of.
Yeah, and people, I think, reviews on that were really good. They were definitely mixed. You know, there's always going to be a good mix.
Yeah.
Bless it.
Michael reads the reviews, which, you know, is very good for... I can't.
You gotta know. I like to do it because sometimes you like to feel that, like, righteous anger of being like, oh, that person's, like, too stupid. Like, they're too dumb to see the beauty of this thing. And sometimes it's like, oh, you know what, that's a legitimate critique, and, you know, I'll put that in my back pocket, and I'll think of it again in my dark hour of the soul later when I'm trying to...
3 a.m.
Yeah, trying to be a better writer.
Well, like that...
But I know who I am. Like, I know who I am, and I know who Becky is. I know that we're, like, badasses with good ideas.
Fuck yeah.
But I'm also, like, you can feel... I feel, like, borderline... egotistical sometimes in my relationship to the things that I create, but I also know that there's an equal balance of self-deprecation, questioning myself, and even hating myself and hating the things that I create. That's just the art life, baby. That's like you want to go to the dance, you got to be ready to have your toes stepped on a bunch.
I think I'm a little different in the fact that one of my hobbies is looking for my own flaws. So I enjoy going through things and like kind of picking them over and being like, what can I make better?
That's super cool. That ain't me.
That's me.
I'll meditate on my inequities. You know, I'll sink into a hole and I'll lay face down on the couch for a day and just feel bad. And then the next day I'll pop up and think that I could run through the wall if I so desired. You know, it's that weird dualism that I think a lot of people like us experience, where it's which way is the wind gonna blow today, and how much can I catch a tailwind off of his good moments.
Well, especially with what you guys are doing in Wonder Woman, like kind of be on this forefront of like Wonder Woman's getting this whole new level of popularity again. She's getting back to the top, and I think what you two have done, and like Daniel Warren Johnson on Dead Earth, and kind of Grant Morrison on Earth One, have been these completely new takes on Wonder Woman that we haven't seen, at least in my entire lifetime. And being on that forefront, being like generals in the battle to lead a new Wonder Woman to a new era, it's gotta just, like you said, weigh on you, but also be one of the most exciting things you can do artistically.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I think in the beginning I was a little nervous. You know, like any job that you get that's kind of big, you're like, ooh, I hope that whatever we do is going to be good. But then once you get into the headspace of writing it and you start to develop like a relationship with the story and the characters and figure out like kind of, you know, plot your path, you know. Yeah. And we're confident in this story that we're telling. It's big, it's exciting, and it's relevant in a way where it's going to be, I think it's relevant in a way that isn't, what's the word, when it's like too modern, you know? It's like
timeless.
Timeless, that's the one.
There's a timeless one.
There is, because we're pulling a lot from mythology, but more than that, I think the stuff that we're saying that's relevant is something that's always going to be relevant. So hopefully we're making a book here that's going to stick on the shelves and stick with people and be something that you can pick up in 5 or 10 years and not feel like it's dated in a certain time, which is something that I always strive for anyway.
Becky once said something along the lines of like, if I get the opportunity to write a character, I want to write like that.
Like a definitive.
Like the, yeah, like if I'm writing Batman, I want to write Dark Knight.
Oh yeah.
You know, Year One or Hush or what? Pick your favorite Batman story. Like that's the thing that you want to show up and you want to kill it like that.
Yeah.
And that's really stuck with me. And it's never about competition. I've seen some like weirdos on the internet be like, "Oh, this is better than that, but it's not as good as that," or like they'll give us a compliment by putting down people that we like, and love and work with. So it's like, again, it goes back to this like empathy that's been born in me out of to a degree out of being on the other end of things, where I've got like such little interest in shipping on other people's hard work.
Yeah.
You know, even if it ain't for me, like it's just so not interesting. So it's kind of hard sometimes because somebody will write an awesome review. They'll be like, "Oh, this thing like ruled, loved it, blah blah blah," and then they'll say something like kind of shady or nasty about the backup story. It's like, man, I can't like retweet that or share that and feel good about myself because like it'll be like, "Oh, Wonder Woman 70's getting good reviews over here," and I know like our partners in the book are gonna see that and be like, "What is this? Like this hurts. Like this sucks."
And it's an incredible backup.
The backup in 770, like
it has that weirdo like old like 60s, 70s kind of comic feel to it.
Totally silvery,
very bizarre, but like so sweet and endearing, and like just has that like almost surreal quality to it. But it's done in such a fun way where it's like I just accept it.
Yeah, well, I think
we thought when we got the comps, we were both like, "Damn!"
Yeah, like, and I knew everyone who worked on it, so it was like I knew it was going to be good, but it was great to read it, and I'd be excited and surprised about it.
Oh yeah, well, to me, it combined some great things, like you mentioned, the Silver Age and 70s and 80s stories, but the art had such a modern flair to it that was kind of taking the best of the old, best of the new, and making something that I've never seen a Wonder Woman before. I was not expecting that at all.
Yeah, it was so cute. And Jumpa, man.
Yes.
Which that's like a super deep cut. Like Wonder Woman been running with kangaroos for a minute. So people out there who got a problem with the kangaroo, maybe got a problem with the OG stuff. Like maybe you aren't coming with the knowledge.
I really appreciate like wacky stuff. It seems these days it's annoying. So.
Great.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, it's the idea
for wackier stories. So,
wacky stories always have a very good place in our hearts on this podcast. So we appreciate any level of weird and wacky. That's something that we love. Oh, go ahead, Daniel. Sorry.
I was just saying that's how you and I met. So wacky stories and do patrols and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's all. But.
No, it's true. That's like Young Animal was the birth of this podcast.
Yeah.
Have you guys done a story about that yet? Have you told that story on the podcast?
It's been referenced, but not like in detail. Cause just for the moment, random pinged a guy on the internet and like, "Hey, you like Doom Patrol? I like Doom Patrol. Sweet." And we just became buddies over that. So
I love this so much. I love it.
Yeah, I was.
You guys is like Issue and Gerard's run, Grant's run, Pollock's run. The whole thing is like. So we constantly talk about it. I think an episode doesn't go by without one of those names getting mentioned here.
Pretty much.
I wish Morrison would write a Hawkman book or something crazy like that will happen. It's, just not like we guys were talking about earlier, fans trying to submit ideas, but just more like, we'll reference, like, that'd be cool to see one day or something.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I don't think that it's wrong to, like that's all positive stuff.
Yeah.
Like, we say, like, "Oh, I'd love to see Grant Morrison handle X character." That's great. That hurts no one. That's exciting for me. Like I didn't know I wanted that until you just said it. See, now I'm ready to make a down payment. I think I'm discovering a greater love for humanity at large, and it's in part because I don't have a TikTok, but on my on Instagram, like on my suggested stuff, it's always like people dancing around and stuff like that. And on like porting their TikTok stuff over to Instagram, and I'll get sucked into a hole where I'm just watching them. You know, like as we used to watch like Periscope videos or like whatever thing was like hip at the time. But I'll always lean over and be like, Becky, look at this person. Look at how they dance, or look at this like, look at this weird cooking method, or look at this guy's dog. Like, it looks like a man. And we just like, I'll get so won over by how weird people are. Everyone's getting so weird and so bent and bizarre, and I don't know if it's because we've been isolated and we're like becoming more our true selves. Like, we've gone into this year-long chrysalis, and we're all gonna come out with
bizarre hobbies and
affectations. But it's like, it's all the stuff that we love collectively in books like Doom Patrol, that it's coming true. It's happening right before your eyes. Like, all of these character types and all of these changes that were called for, and the Invisibles. Like, everyone's in the Invisible College now. Everyone's a weird magician who's, like, dreaming of tearing down the system and building something that's more representative and more equal in its place.
Yeah.
And at least that's the weird bubble I live in. I know there's a whole other bubble that's, like, these people that want to maintain this horrific and brutal structure of marginalization and separation. But those aren't our folks. Like, those are people that are already dying. Like, their spirit's already dead. Their body's catching up with it.
No, I 100% agree. I think 'cause most of my bubble is like comics and pro wrestling. So I get a lot of people with big, weird dreams kind of clashing and coming together over very cool and weird ideas. And I love seeing that. But every now and then I see a peek into the other world, and it's like a completely different universe out there.
Yeah, it's going to be my block button at the workout.
It's important to be aware that it exists, because there's people right now who need people of privilege like us to be there to advocate for them when they're getting bullied by other people that look like us. But on the same hand, like, I try and at least once a day take a moment and be thankful that humans are beautiful and creative and weird, and that even in these dusty old automaton types who are in charge, who are in charge of signing bills that are limiting people's rights and stuff like that, somewhere inside of them is like something that was once cool, and it's just so calcified, messed up. It may be that they need to be punched in the head a few times or thrown out of society, but I try and at least understand that, like, the bulk of people are out there just scraping by, trying not to suffer too much, and trying to live their best life.
I think that's easy to forget, because it's so easy to be, disillusioned and cynical with everything that you, like, all the bad news. It's like just overwhelming sometimes. So I think it's good to, like, reflect on that and like watch some people dancing on TikTok, being like, oh yeah, people are out there having fun and being weird, being like their true selves, which is a beautiful thing.
Oh, it is. I mean, especially right now. Especially right now, like COVID times, it's very easy for everybody to, like you said, just be insular and forget that there's so many people out there, and the 48 people you see on Twitter or Instagram don't represent the 48,000 people that live in their neighborhood or live in their town or whatever else.
Yeah, and it's so easy to focus on the bad. You know, you get one bad comment, or like you run across one asshole on the internet, even if you never care what their opinion is. If you met them normally, you know, it's like, but for whatever reason, that one thing is going to be the thing that drags you down for the day. And it's just not fair. You know? It's hard. It's a hard time.
I think it really is, and I think especially we don't have concerts or conventions or things that we used to be able to really come together and see the other people like us and go, okay, we're not the only ones like this. And now that we don't, like you said, places like TikTok and good parts of Twitter and some of YouTube can become this escape to remind you that, oh yeah, there is beauty still. They're not all evil dinosaurs. They're there, but that's not everybody.
Yeah.
So one thing, speaking of like good and positive stuff, one thing we always like to talk about on this show is music. So right now, I want to know, what are you guys listening to currently?
First I want to say I was really sad that Power Trip didn't win the Grammy today.
They didn't win.
That's kind of fun. I listened to a lot of Drag Majesty lately, which if you haven't heard, you'd probably love, I'm going to say. So yeah, it's just...
Hell yeah.
That's
They're
what
synth pop, aren't they?
Yeah, there's synthy.
Yeah, I've heard some of their stuff. Good.
Yeah. Pinkish Black also is another great one if you're looking for more synthy, like, you know.
Okay.
I want to say pop, but just synth, I guess.
Yeah. I listen to different kinds of music at different times of the day, and depending on what I'm doing and what I want the music to do for me. So a lot of times when I'm writing, it'll be like 80s movie soundtracks, but like the scores usually of like 80s horror movies. Or sometimes it'll be a more contemporary band. Like I love the new Mogwai record. It came out like, I don't know, maybe 2-3 weeks ago. I've been a Mogwai fan for most of my life, and there's something very comforting and good about them. And then at other times of the day when I'm not writing or trying to relax, I'll listen to a lot of like the stuff that I listened to when I was 17. I heard that you will always love the stuff that you loved when you were 17. And I always saw that as kind of like a sign of aging, that it's like, oh, you stopped looking for things that are cool. You stopped being open to the novelty of new experience because you felt like you had discovered this definitive sound. And I'll say that's not entirely true, because there are current like pop punk emo bands that have made it into like my regimen of, oh, I'm gonna listen to like a bunch of Operation Ivy today. But I didn't start listening to My Chemical Romance until I met Gerard and was like, oh, this dude's like really cool and legit and kind. Like I was maybe not too old, but maybe I thought that I was like too hip when My Chemical Romance showed up on my radar and they like blew up. I was just like, oh, I don't listen to mainstream stuff, man. Even though when like Helena would come on the radio, I would be like, this shit fucking rules. Like I would just never admit it to myself.
Yeah.
So after I met Gerard, I was like, you know, we had like a brief conversation and like went out to dinner and stuff like that. So I got to go home and be like, oh, I'm friends with Gerard. Gerard was not my friend at that point, you know, but it's like, oh, I went out to dinner with him and hung out at a comic shop with him. So I immediately started like diving into the My Chemical Romance back catalog. And of course, like, that shit fucking rips. Like, I love it all. And of course, my favorite record by My Chemical Romance is Killjoys, and that's in part because when I met Becky, she was working on Killjoys.
When you met me, I was in...
No, when I met Becky. When I met Gerard, Becky was working on Killjoys.
I was going to say, when you met me, we were in study hall.
When I met Becky, she was working on her spelling homework.
Just a little bit before Danger Days.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so My Chemical Romance definitely like in steady rotation with all my pop.
That's actually me and Daniel have caught shit over the years because Danger Days is also our favorite My Chem album, and that album didn't get enough love in my opinion in that community. It's that album kicks ass.
It does. There's so much diversity and power throughout that entire. I celebrate that whole catalog.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong. Black Parade, it might be like their Sgt. Pepper's or whatever.
Yeah.
But like as far as the Beatles go, my shit by the Beatles is Magical Mystery Tour, so it only makes sense that Danger Days is gonna be my Chemical Romance. That's kind of their Magical Mystery Tour. I'm talking about old shit now, baby. I'm talking about the Beatles. The Beatles were a rock and roll band. They were from Liverpool. They were a good rock and roll band.
I've heard a thing or two about them in the past at some point. I was just talking about Beatles for a minute.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, Michael, my first exposure to your work, besides like Doom Patrol 5, was, I don't know if someone posted the same week it came out, and you and Becky did that issue, but it was your band that you had, and I really like that band. I'm not sure if you guys still do stuff. I can't pronounce the name, and I don't want to picture in front of you. Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I love that band.
We were around. We were like a regular band in like years and years, like more than decades ago, where we would like tour and play shows and stuff like that. And then we stopped doing that. And then I was going through some major life upheaval stuff. And I was like, what the hell? Let's get together and like play some shows. So we played a couple shows, and we had always had like the band is just never done. It will just live like it'll live when it's meant to live. And recently with with COVID and everything like that, I've been talking with all those guys through text message and with a couple of our other friends involved. And I was like, you know what? There's like the face of music has changed so much now that it's like the way that we were doing things, like we don't have to be beholden to that anymore. Like we can write music at long distance, writing music at range. So we've been talking a lot. I should mention, I love this band called Daughters. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Yes, love Daughters.
But I got into this wild moment where all I was listening to was Daughters. Like just Daughters nonstop. Like didn't matter what I was doing. I was listening to Daughters. And it was around that time that I was like, man, I want to play music again because it was just firing me up so much. There were so many moments on each record where I was like, I want to do that. Why can't I be doing that right now? So I hit them up, and yeah, we've been talking about doing something. It won't be like Daughters. Like it won't be, it's just like when you're inspired by something, it goes into your brain and gets processed through like the big stack of juice that you are, and it comes out being something far different. So I don't bring up Daughters to say, hey, if you like Daughters, make sure you keep your eye out for what Litney's about to record. I'm just saying, like, that's how like my creative process works. Is I'll be so moved by something that I can no longer just be a spectator. Yeah, I can't do that. Like, if I like comics, I gotta make comics. If I like music, I gotta make music. If I like art, I have to make art. And I encourage people to engage with stuff in that way. Because the people that are making the stuff, they don't know any better than you. Some of them might have college degrees or whatever that say that they do.
But no one really knows what they're doing at any different point in time.
Yeah. I've never known somebody to go to college and come out writing a rock record.
Everyone I know who went to college and graduated all had like a crisis right afterwards because there's that moment when you leave school and then you're like, oh shit, now what? Yeah. I luckily avoided that from dropping out, which was never had that crisis quite because it just kind of transitioned into just working full time, I guess.
And I want to like clear this up by saying like I'm not anti-education, and I'm certainly not anti people having goals that involve getting college accreditation or certificates or these are things that are really important for a lot of people. But as far as like you and engaging, if you want to make a movie and you think like, oh, I don't know how to make a movie though, you do know how to make a damn movie. Like you might not know like the techniques of being able to edit or whatever, but you know like what good editing looks like. You know what your heart and head want to see. So go start making that movie through whatever means you've got. We used to say in the band we had this shitty equipment, like absolute garbage. We couldn't afford cool stuff. And people would come up and they would be like, what is this amp you're playing through? And we'd be like, I don't know. It's loud. Like, we get garbage and we make it rule. And that's the way it can be with like anything. With art, I've seen comic artists use crayons and kill it. Like, you don't need to spend a bunch of money and do a bunch of dumb shit to be valid. You're valid already. Go do the thing.
Oh, 100%. I think there's so many tools, like back in my high school band and college band, just like being able to, like GarageBand or Audacity, or like so many ways to get a demo made so fast. If you have an idea, it's easier than ever to just at least put it down in some listenable format, whether you've got a little practice amp and a like crappy old drum kit, or you've got like a $20,000 rig. Either way, you can get stuff made and out there, and you can edit it to a way that it can at least kind of get the idea that you have in your head out there.
Totally. And that's part of the fun. If everything that I did came out exactly how I imagined it to be, I don't think I would ever make anything really good. I think the good stuff happens with the wrinkles and that like big leap that you make to attempt to achieve the vision that you have in your mind. And in the case of the writing that Becky and I do, oftentimes I'll become precious about an idea, and then once it gets kicked back and forth between Becky and I enough times, like sometimes that idea is gone, and I'll mourn it. I'll feel sad and worried and concerned that my big idea is never gonna be born into this world. And I'll tell you what, I'm really thankful for that. You know, I'm thankful because ideas never go away. You can always use it somewhere else.
Oh yeah.
But also, like, that's the beauty of collaboration. That's why people have said, like, oh, like, what's it like writing together? For me, it's super easy because I've always been in bands. I always played music. It was always a shared vision. Learning how to stand your ground and how to lay down and be like, okay, we're gonna lose that thing that I love. Becky will tell you straight up, sometimes I suck. Sometimes I'm horrible about it. But I'm working on it and I'm getting better.
No, I can relate to that pretty hardcore. I don't know how many times, like, making music or something, getting like the dumbest arguments over like, no, this needs to be this note right here. It's gonna rule the song. It's gonna be the best part of the song. This is gonna make it. And you hear it back like a week later, like, whose idea was it? It's like, it's you. You fought for that idea. Like, oh, that's not good. That was a bad choice. Someone should have stopped me.
Yeah.
But no, I think
the goal with being a creative partner is getting to the point where you have synergy, to where you aren't keeping track of who did what. And like, there are moments where Becky will say, hey, I really like that part where you had Robot Man say this. And I'll be like, that was you, dude.
No, that was you wrote that. And he's like, no, you wrote that. And then we argue about who wrote what now.
Yeah, that's definitely like part of the fun of working together, is like getting that true merger of the brains happening to where you don't remember things. It also is like it's like an ego exercise, like getting rid of that thing that needs acclaim and to be propped up and needs warm fuzzies over these dumb things. We're just making comics, folks. Yeah. Like, it's all good. Like, don't worry about it.
Well, I can 100% say, as someone who like read your work for a long time, Becky, and when you two started working together, I can say I can't pick out who wrote what, like, most of the time. It's almost always just like, I don't know, but they work great together, and it's a kick-ass book.
It's a very, we don't hand it off to each other. Well, we do hand it off to each other, but we don't, like, separate the story. We'll do, like, come together and do an outline first. That's definitely both of our ideas. Get in there, do, like, a page-by-page breakdown. And then Michael does the heavy lifting, where he goes in and does the heavy lifting is the first draft. It's the most difficult part. I struggle so much with my first drafts, and I write and I rewrite, and I get really, like, bogged down in the details, I think. But it's great, and then I go over it, and then he goes over it, and we have this very fluid back and forth process of, like, kind of looking at things, and I think we always end up with something that I'm always very happy with, which is great. And we both write very differently, and we both have very different ideas on, like, how we write. Not what makes a good story, but, like, our sensibilities are different. The things that we like are different. We do like a lot of the same things, but it's nice to be writing with someone who has a different taste in things, you know? To have someone who like challenges your sensibilities, so you're not just writing the same thing over and over again.
It balances.
Because I would write the same thing over
and over again. I do the same thing. It's just good to have a balance. If
Michael will come at me with these crazy ideas, but I'm like, never in a million years is this gonna work. And then you put it on page, you're like, holy shit, this is the craziest, best idea, and it totally makes the story go from like, you know, something that would have been okay to something that's like, this is something that I'm so excited about now.
I'm just gonna take that compliment. It makes me feel good. Becky doesn't need anyone really to tell her who she is and what she does well. I think we all know. Like, Becky's been doing it for a long time.
I still need to know, though.
Well,
doesn't mean I don't like hearing it.
I think the thing that Becky really shines at, and it's hard to say like what someone that you're a partner with does well, because part of you is like, oh, I don't want to make you self-conscious moving forward. But she talks about these like big wild ideas or whatever. I never think that they're like wild or weird or anything like that. Because I have like this idea of how it shows up that I don't necessarily communicate very well all the time. I'll just be like, oh, here's the big idea. And then it's almost like I keep secrets to myself, which is unfair of a partner. Becky does a great job of allowing me to do that and to have my space to do that, but also bringing it in and like reminding me and driving forward like this. The human quality needs to be present. There needs to be like, everyone needs to have proper motivations, and everyone needs to have, like, we need relationships.
We need a talking squirrel.
We need a talking squirrel.
Always need a talking squirrel, in my opinion.
But that's one of the things that she does well, and that's like kind of like something that I sometimes, on my dark moments, I think she's held back by including me, because I think left to her own devices, she could explore these like human relationships in a bigger way. So yeah, I think Becky's strength is being able to capture emotion and personalities and being able to lock those into a static panel. Like, I look at some of Becky, especially with her, with By Chance or Providence, and some of the stuff where it's solely her having worked on it. There will be a single panel with like 3 words in it, and it'll say more than my verbose, wild, like text-heavy, 12-panel grid. Like, thinking of being groundbreaking. She's managed to refine it and bring it in like a diamond. And coal is good and valuable and can be used. But when you really squeeze it all together, you get a diamond bit.
It's really small. Tiny.
So yeah, what she does well is being an artist. What I do well is being like a storyteller, a blue collar guy, just showing up and lying to you.
No, I can say from personal experience, there's a lot of going back to Picsou, way back in the day, like some of the artwork you had in there to this day sticks out in my head. And like you were saying, Michael, just capturing a moment so well in one little expression on a face, in one word. I think you excel at that. And I think combined talents have brought everything to a whole nother level. Like, I'm still blown away by what I've been reading in Wonder Woman. I'm still blown away by Midnighter.
Thank you so much.
And the colors and the rest of the team has also been really good too.
Oh yeah.
Not to that, include them as well. Tamara and Travis really their stuff too.
Travis is like going above and beyond with everything we've asked him to draw is like crazy stuff, and he just nails it every single time. And Tamara was like one of the reasons I wanted to work on Doom Patrol, and not just to work with Michael, and not just because it was like part of Young Animal, and not just because the legacy of Doom Patrol, but it was Tamara's colors. I was like, if I draw Doom Patrol Tamara Bonville is going to color me. And that is like what sealed the deal for me. I was like, I want to have my work colored by her before I die at least once. So that was that. And then with Wonder Woman, I was like ready to fight someone if we couldn't get her on the book. I was like, can we get, like, she was in our list of like, who do you want to color? And I was like, Tamara is the list. This is it. It's like, and if she wasn't available, I was like ready to bribe her. I was like, what can I do for you that will make you draw this book? And if our editor wasn't feeling it, I was ready to like fly to Los Angeles and like fight someone. Just ready to go.
That's a fair fight.
She's one of my favorite colorists.
I knew that she was super busy. I was like in this group chat with her and a couple of other friends, and when we started petitioning the editors, like, hey, can we get Tamara on this book?
Petitioning this book, that's very nice. It's generous.
I knew how busy she was, so I wasn't hopeful at all. I was like, oh, we'll get another great colorist. And that's good. I knew Travis, like, Travis could have a fool color his line work, and it would still look really good.
One of my other favorite colors is actually Jordy Blair, who's writing the background. So, like, we have two of my favorite colorists on this book, even though Jordy's the writer.
Yeah, so I was super thankful when Tamara was able to join the team. It really is, like, kind of, we've never met Travis, but, like, we talk to him routinely in the process of creating this book, and he just seems like a dude that I would be friends with.
Yeah, he's super sweet. He's so, everything he does is like on point too. It's like he just will imagine everything exactly how we imagined it, I guess. It's just like, just nice to feel like you're on the same page with someone when you're just vibing, That's kind of how this book is.
Exactly.
The whole team just vibes.
Oh, it shows, because, again, the cohesiveness of everything blending together works. Again, not to compare anyone, it's just one of the better books on the stands I've seen in years and years as far as everything hitting a top level.
Thank you.
That's so wild to hear. It's so
I
wild.
feel good.
I'm like I said, there's moments where I'm super confident, and there's other moments where,
it's stage fright.
You don't know.
I feel like stage fright.
It's maybe stage fright. Maybe it's being too close to it. Maybe it's knowing all the tricks. Like,
yeah, but
I
know it's good. When you look at the story, we think we've written a good story. You're never going to write a story and be like, I don't know if it's any good, but we'll put it out anyway. It's like, no, you make sure that the story is like, you're excited about it, you're like into it 100%, you believe in it, and you think it's like, it moves you emotionally. You get like, you get heated when you talk about it. So that's.
I tend to really like stuff that doesn't connect with the broad audience. So for me, I don't trust my own sensibilities. So working on something that is meant to connect with a broad audience, I don't know if people are like smelling what I'm stepping until other people say pew. So it feels really good to have had this positive feedback and to hear this good stuff. We've been ourselves every step of this thing. Like you have to invest in yourself and just be like, oh, we're going to create the type of story that we want to read. But it allows you to like double down and like get back into that mindset. Not that it ever went away, but like that good reminder of, hey, just do your thing. If it's too freaky or too weird or too out of pocket for the audience, maybe they'll catch up, or maybe you've underestimated people. And I think that's a real possibility when people think like, people don't understand my art. Like maybe you've overestimated yourself in that circumstance. Like maybe you're thinking too high of yourself. So yeah, I'm just kind of going with the flow. I've got the protection of working with Becky. Becky's so good, and also if things go sideways, they're going to remember it as Becky's name on the book. We'll see how things start going when I'm doing more stuff with just my name on the book. We'll see if people show up with that.
Based off
current, Colby and I in for that though.
Oh yeah,
what's that?
You can count Colby and I in for whatever book you do next. I mean, same with both of you, honestly. So.
Awesome. Yeah, I can't wait. We've got some major, big stuff coming up, and some other
big stuff.
Some other really big stuff. So
some other stuff.
Yeah, 2021 has kind of manifested the dreams that I had for 2020. I went into 2020 around this time last year. I was feeling like, oh, this is going to be my breakout year. Like, I had so much stuff like in the pipes, ready to go, and then COVID slowed that up, and I just remember being like, it's over. It is over. Like, this dream is done. Like, time for me to like figure out something, because this is over, and it's just really been incredible to kind of stick with it and to keep dreaming and to keep like trying to manifest like this thing that I've wanted my whole life. It's neat to see like, oh, it is coming to fruition. Before anyone starts thinking like, oh, all you got to do is dream and manifest, and a year later thing happens. No, I've been working on writing comics for a very long time. This has been the culmination of not just dreaming, but all actual like busting my ass and trying to really learn the art form. So yeah, it's cool to see it going down.
Oh no, it's an awesome journey to be a part of, just as a reader too, to see. Again, and so far, I loved every issue, but every issue seems like it's just getting even better and better and going crazier in different directions in ways I didn't plan on even seeing. And again, in a Wonder Woman book, and I appreciate that so much.
I remember before, when it was announced that we were taking over the regular book after Immortal Wonder Woman, I said something just off the cuff. I was like, yeah, it's going to be like really like kind of a bizarre story. Because like the setup is bizarre. It's not necessarily bizarre by virtue of itself.
It's like everything leading in from Death Metal. Like, we knew the status quo going into our book, so we knew what was we didn't know the end of Death Metal, but it was all very like kind of hush hush, you know. Like, we knew how we had to start it. So I don't know where I was going with this. Yeah, so it was bizarre. It was like
we knew she wasn't to be like on Earth running around punching dudes.
Mm-hmm.
We knew that she would have, something has happened and she's ascended, and figure out what to do with that. Thankfully, we found like a neat angle on it. But yeah, so when I said like, oh, it's gonna be like weird, somebody showed up. Somebody who's got like one of those screen names where it's like the representative of Diana, like somebody who's like put it on themselves, elected themselves as like the Prime Minister of the Prince Minister. They show up and they're like, oh, right. Like, they're bummed that I was like, oh, it's going to be weird. Some of these people don't want weird. They want, like, status quo. You know? They don't want anything to change.
Yeah, sure.
I got news for them. Comic books are an illusion. It's the illusion of change. It's like, Superman's dead, and you knew he was gonna come back.
Yeah, the whole thing is like, you want to go in there and tell like you want to tell a story that moves people. You want to tell a story that is gonna like emotionally affect people, that they're gonna think about after they put the book down. You want to like leave a lasting impression, but at the same time, you have to put the toys back when you found them, so the next person who comes along can like play with them.
Oh, yeah.
So there's only something that you can do, and people who get all up in arms about like changing the status quo or changing characters or like killing off characters or whatever, it's like, well, it's all going to go back to the way it was. Like, things will go back to, status quo so we can fuck it up again. Can I say that? Mess it up again. I don't usually swear so much, but I heat it right now.
Oh no, go
what I'm saying.
cuss as much as you want.
The only hope of real change in comics is it's a community effort. Like Becky said, you can't break the toys, but if you do break it in such a cool way that everyone agrees that it is not broken.
Yeah.
It's just the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, this G.I. Joe got his leg blown off by a landmine, and that's the way he looks, and that's just it. So any change that we do affect within the book it's largely determined by
readers,
by readership response.
And so, like, if we make a character that people like, that if he sticks around, a lot of it's going to be up to people being vocal about it, and like just being excited, you know. So that's
that's about all I have to say about that.
That's it. That's it.
Well,
It seems like people really like Ziggy, so I think we'll have to keep going for a while. Because that one's great.
I love that man.
You know,
Beautiful man.
he went through a number of iterations. We did a lot of research on the not historical, but the mythological background of Siegfried. Including things about his ethnicity. People might look at him and be like, why has he got brown skin if he's rolling around with these Nordic fools? And that's because a strong argument can be made that he's of some Persian descent or some Middle Eastern descent. So every little thing there's two of us, so the two of us can argue and do research and come together with all kinds of facts and try and make the best thing that we can. With Siegfried, we knew that we wanted a thirst trap, and goddamn it, Travis Miller screwed us up with this dude that I'm jealous of his ass. I don't know if I want to be him or be with him, but goddamn it, he's just a good ass dude. So I get why people are feeling it. And Travis is the big part of the equation on that one by making him look like such a fucking diva.
Yeah, when we described him, I was and he's got to be very, very important that he's very so important.
He's always got waves in his hair.
Very
important.
And Travis came back and we were both like, wow! Too sexy.
So good.
It's Siggy Mania has really been unexpected. I knew people were gonna be down with him, but I also knew that we were running a big risk because people are really touchy about who Diana spends time with.
Yeah.
Because of weird projected fantasies or in a lot of cases sexism.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed a lot of guys they want to tell Diana who to be with. It just seems like a little sketchy, bro. I have this writer friend who is you're gonna notice in working on Wonder Woman that even fictional females face sexism, and it's weird because I am seeing that. I am seeing possessive dudes show up. It's y'all need to pump the brakes a little bit. Chill out. Breathe some fresh air. You're gonna be okay.
No, it is crazy to see some of the responses that people go over fictional characters and how much they try to own their entire world in their head, and when someone doesn't live up to that ownage, they're just shocked at the audacity of someone went a different direction than what they wanted it to do.
Yeah.
Part of me loves that passion. I love a freaky degree of passion.
I've been a fan of things where I get I don't know if I've ever been super possessive about it, but I'm you have headcanon, I have my own way in my head that certain stories go. It's that's not actually in my head. It's much better.
I remember back in the day, Sting joined the NWO.
Yeah.
But it was performative. It was me and my friends gathered around a TV, yelling and eating pizza. It wasn't me legitimately being angry at the creative team, the wrestlers, the station for putting it on. I wasn't petitioning to change things. I understood that me being upset in that moment was part of what was getting me to tune into Nitro and Thunder and every other weird program they were throwing at me. I love being surprised, and I love sometimes being angry at the choices that the characters that I love are making.
Yes,
that's part of the damn fun. If everything went exactly how you want it to go, there ain't a reason for me to show up and tell a story. Like, you stay home and you write your weirdo fan fiction and you enjoy yourself.
Nothing wrong with fan fiction. Put that out there.
No.
We got massive love for the fan fiction.
Yeah. But golly, fan fiction I'm into fanfic. I'm a fan fiction writer. That's how I got started as a comic book writer. The first script that I ever shared with any industry professionals was a Batman short, and I was ignorant. I didn't realize what we were talking about earlier. They can't be looking at that stuff because then they're potential for a lawsuit if they do anything that even is remotely like what I said. So yeah, I'm not knocking fan fiction. Save yourself the time.
No, I think there's about to be a flood of Siggy fan fiction out there too, so don't worry. I think they'll forgive you.
I'll
be reading it all. I'll be sweating, laying up in bed, sweating, reading something.
Babe, what are you reading?
Nothing. It's not Siggy fan fiction.
Well, I know you guys were.
Is that it again?
I know you guys were talking.
Thinking about it.
You guys were talking about taking new chances with characters, and I think that's one thing I've been giving DC in general a big credit for, because it seems like with Future State and now the future slate of everything, they're taking a lot of chances, not only with talent involved, but also just taking characters in new, completely different directions. It's been, for someone who doesn't typically read a lot of Big Two, for me, I'm buying more DC now than ever before, and it's awesome.
That's great. It's Future State was super cool to be a part of. I'll be honest, when they first were talking to me about what Future State is, I was so confused. I was I don't understand. It's in the future, but it's is it elsewhere kind of stuff? I was just having a hard time putting it together and then being what my role in it would be. But quickly we had a few massive phone calls with every creator involved in for us we did when we were asked to do it, we were doing Midnighter first. They asked us to do a Midnighter story. So that's where we came in, and then we had this group call with everyone, and everyone had these just wild ideas. It's shit that I've never even would imagine would happen at DC. And it's oh my god, we're part of something crazy big right now. And it's these books that are gonna change things in a way that you won't even notice until 5 years down the road, and you're oh my god, this thing happened because of Future State. It just felt like a really cool thing to be in the room for, so I was very happy about it.
Yeah, and it really, again, it kind of goes back to that idea of readership kind of determines if something's got staying power. So I think to do something like Future State is cool and interesting because it gives an opportunity of this potential future. Mm-hmm. I compare it to Days of Future Past.
Exactly.
Yes.
Days of Future Past isn't canonical the X-Men story.
Yeah.
But
you're always going to think about that.
And it always gets referenced, and in our heads it all ends with the Sentinels shooting Wolverine, and he's a skeleton, and there's pictures of them with their faces X'd out and all this.
No,
it becomes real.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that you shoot for over time is that if the great eraser of continuity is going to show up periodically and take away your hard work, you just want to make it so cool that it lives in someone's head and heart for the rest of their life. They're oh, you remember when Superman punched Darkseid into the sun and created a black hole, and then Wonder Woman flew out? And
that's canon.
Yeah, that's canon.
Yeah.
You care about it.
It's canon.
Yeah.
Canon is what lives in your head, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, there is the overarching, I guess, canon and characters have it and everything.
We obey a degree of canon. We have to.
Yeah.
We're working on stuff where we have to know who, what we're allowed to do.
What characters are available, who's doing what where.
Yeah.
Why?
So yeah, there's some rationale behind it, but as far as a reader, do yourself a favor and just get into the stuff that you're into.
Yes.
Make up your own head canon. The same people that want to be sticklers for continuity are the same people that like want to tell other people what to do with the continuity.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it's like a very strange, like, those two things don't really go together too well, at least for me. So if you're gonna go in the direction of I create my own headcanon, like it almost becomes like the creators become less important, especially with something like Batman or Wonder Woman or Superman, like these big characters. Like there's such a broad history to them that you could read comics for the rest of your life and never have to read anything that I've ever touched. And it can be all the same characters and all doing similar things. And if you don't like a particular writer, you can just ignore that run. It's cool. Like, you don't need that writer. If you don't like an artist, you can stop buying the book. You don't have to buy anything.
Yeah.
You know?
But also, please buy comics.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep buying comics.
Please keep buying comics.
Yeah.
Support your local comic store. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
no, yeah.
Becky's really making sure that I don't get in trouble by speaking to you.
Well, speaking of local comic stores.
These are just my personal opinions. Yeah. I don't necessarily represent Becky in any way.
Yeah, that's fair.
I just gotta punch in every once in a while.
Yeah.
We'll put a legal disclaimer at the front of the video. Expressions doesn't represent.
It just says Becky doesn't agree with anything Michael says.
Holy, let's make it look like Law and Order. It'll be sick.
Oh, we could do that actually.
Laura with it.
Oh, dude, yeah, that's
the canon justice system.
We got to give a shout out to Derek from our podcast network. He preaches the importance of like your own canon all the time. So quick shout out to Derek because that's his bread and butter.
Shout out to Derek.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really the only way to be. You'll make yourself nuts if you let other people tell you what's right and wrong about the characters that you love. You can just pick the stuff you like about them. It's all good.
Nice.
It's the same with like Morrison's run too. Batman. He just says it all matters. But he didn't say it all matters. So, and you can accept that, or you can just do what you've been saying and don't have to accept all of it.
Yeah, I love Morrison's stance on that. I especially love how he describes the TV series. He was like, yeah, man, that's when they were, hit with too many gases, too much fear gas, man. Every time they punch at somebody, they see it in cartoon. I can't do Morrison voice at all. I love that like explanation of it.
It's so good.
Yeah. You ever notice that so many Batman enemies are just like, it's just drugs?
They just love gas.
That's all it is. It's drugs.
They're very gassy.
They're
very gassy. We're actually, speaking of Grant Morrison for Wonder Woman, a big inspiration for us was his map of the multiverse.
Yes, I was going to ask about that.
Specifically, the Sphere of the Gods was what got us really, like, kind of the juices flowing in our brains,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Morrison.
I'm a Morrison freak.
Same here.
He's got tattoos.
And I
I
have to say that, I've been referring to Grant Morrison as a he. Grant Morrison is non-binary, so apologies, old habits die hard. I need to refer to Grant Morrison as they. But either way, I just want to clarify that for myself real quick. I'm a big fan of Grant Morrison. Hugely inspired by Grant. So you're going to see a little bit of his DNA and everything or a little bit of their DNA and everything that I touch.
Awesome. Well, that's honestly Immortal, especially to me. I was going to ask because there's to me at least a similar vibe of like their All-Star Superman run had like kind of a similar DNA as far as this big grandiose scope, but bringing a character into a completely different like ecosphere of creation than you're used to seeing them in.
We both love All-Star Superman, like from the top to the bottom. Like it's it's incredible. So yeah, undeniably, stories like that, like, kind of fed into Immortal Wonder Woman and what we were trying to do. We didn't have the room to be able to, like, do that big deep dive that All-Star provides.
Yeah.
But I think that it's almost a good thing. I think it's, like, kind of beautiful to be like, oh, we did in 44 pages we made something that I think is really powerful and does a service to the character, and it incorporates elements of her character that we think are important to the legacy. So yeah, undeniably, All-Star Superman is always going to be, like, somewhere around, especially with some of the stuff that I've got coming up that I will not talk about. All-Star plays a big role in that.
I do have a question about Future City. I don't think Colby's brought up yet, and if you can't tell us, that's fine. But is the Spectre supposed to be Hal at the end of the book? I know this is probably spoilers at this point, but is it supposed to be Spectre? Not Spectre. Is that going to be figured out later on, or can you even say?
I love that you've pulled that, and I've had a couple people ask me this, and I 100% want to say, I'm not gonna give it away right now. Not because I think we'll be returning to that. I think, like, the Immortal Wonder Woman timeline is kind of, like, in a vacuum where it's just, like, vacuum sealed unless, like, there's an uproar and people are like, oh, we want to, like, let's backtrack it a little bit and explore that time period a little bit more. And I don't want to negate other people. Other people have theories about who is the host of the Spectre there.
I have a theory.
Yeah, Becky has.
I've got my own theory.
Do you want to say your theory? She's like covering it. She's showing up with a theory.
I've got a theory. No, I don't want to say my theory. But I do have one.
I mean,
I'm just being cagey because you're being cagey.
Yeah, not to be cagey, but I mean, she's wearing the Green Lantern ring, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like around her neck, and we didn't show what happened to the Green Lantern. He was like the one where there's like a referential artifact of them. He was the one that we didn't show.
But you can.
So, like I said, you might really be onto something with your theory. Like, you might have done the riddle box, but I'm not gonna confirm or deny those rumors at this point.
Yeah, let's talk about it later when it's not as fresh.
That's fair. That's fair.
But say it for a bit, and then we can come back to it. I feel like right now it still feels so new to me. So if we go around, like, I mean, I guess it wouldn't hurt, but it just still feels so new, you know? Like, I don't want to say it's thriller, but it definitely, like, is edging in that.
I like the idea of people, like, I love David Lynch, and he's like, I'm not gonna tell you what it meant. Cooper?
Especially since Twin Peaks had a weird thing.
Yeah, he would rather you just, like, figure it out and understand, like, yeah.
Michael always likes to say, live in the mystery, and I think that's a beautiful thing. Sometimes it's good to not know everything exactly how it is supposed to go and to have your own ideas.
Yeah.
I think that also makes the story very personal, because when you sit there and you try and figure something out or think about who it might be or what, you know, this character meant by what they said, sometimes you always bring a bit of yourself to that story, and then it becomes something that's, like, more powerful, you know, because it bonds the reader and the story when you have to put yourself into it and, like, think more about it. Or some people just don't like thinking about it, too, you know. Can't blame them. It's too much other things to worry about. There's too many other things to do.
That's why we put punching in comics.
That's what it is.
Our comics would probably have no violence in them if it wasn't for people that didn't want to think.
I like most type of comics, so it faze me.
Yeah, I'm not playing them. Sometimes, like, we do have to be like, we need to put some action in this.
Oh yeah.
Because it'll just be like, if we don't find a way to incorporate some action, it'll just be two people sitting across the table from each other, talking about how they're afraid to die.
And it's different with, like, if you're coming out with a graphic novel, because that story will have a different flow when you read it. But when you come out with a monthly book, there's always that, like, every month, 22 pages have to have, like, an up and down. You have to have, like, feel like you feel fulfilled by the thing that you've just read, which is going to include some action. If it's a superhero book, it's going to have to include character moments. There's going to, how do you make it emotional? How do you make it exciting and mysterious and action-packed? Like, all these things into one book, which is everything that I think a Wonder Woman story should be. Really, not difficult at all.
Oh, it's been so funny because so we're writing Midnighter, and Midnighter now it's starting Future State. Now it's going to be in the back of Action Comics.
The Action Comics.
The Action Comic, like the first like superhero comic, like the one, which is really exciting for me as a nerd, but also like Action Comics is built so that it's a superhero, it's Superman, and like children, old people, middling people, all kinds of readers are picking it up. And as such, like, we're showing up telling the story about a queer, violent dude, a guy that kills people. So for one thing, it's really exciting, and it feels very powerful to bring this central gay character to a Superman book. Furthermore, a Superman book that's going to a broad audience. Mm-hmm. So that's a really powerful thing to be a part of, and I think that it's a really awesome move on DC's part.
Oh yeah, agreed.
The other part is like trying to figure out how to show, hey, this is a violent dude without going too over the top with it. Like we've been kind of approaching it like a Verhoeven movie, like super violent, super wild and over the top, and then bringing that same energy to action and trying to figure out how to do it in a way that we aren't getting this sent back from the censors being like, hey, you had him like beat a dude to death with a hammer, and like we can't have little Johnny reading this book. So we've had to adjust. Like we're having him swear and do all this.
They're like, you can't do this.
They're like, don't do that. Like, can you quit having him say fuck you? And just keep saying that. So we're like, we have to like adjust our mode and like get creative with the violence, and it's Becky who's got to calm down with the violence. I'll hear the thing where it's like he shoots up this lab full of people with machine guns. He just shoots them. And then she'll send it back, and it'll have changed.
It'll be like he shoots him through the eye. Splits on the wall.
There's a room full of unarmed scientists. They all die. Like we legitimately have a note on a script right now being like, hey, that part where he killed all those unarmed people, we know that they're bad, but it's just not a good look.
Like, that's what you would do.
So we gotta like adjust it. We're like, all right, put guns there. And,
get them all done.
Now it's okay to kill them in the most vicious way. That was so funny. But
Midnighter's a blast to write. It's so much fun.
Oh, it's been.
And I think people are really in for a treat when they see like the continuing saga of it. I think people with Future State backups that we did, they were like, okay, this is kind of fun. Like he's running around shooting cyborgs. Like what's it all mean? Like this is where we kind of contextualize the whole thing and build it out, and it's so much fun to write because the main bad guy is like my type of character to write. Like I just love writing him. I write him till the cows come home. So yeah, I hope people. I think Action comes out at the end of this month, and that'll be where Part 3 can be found. Yeah. The first 2 parts are in Superman World War, which was part of the Future State Shindig, with incredible art by Gleb Melnikov did Part 1, and then Michael Avon Oeming took over from there.
And Mike Oeming is drawing the backup for doing an Action comic. In fact, he's done coloring it, and it's phenomenal. His art is so kinetic and so visceral. Also, it's super fun and funny.
With Kirby.
Oh yeah.
Just wild over we were just talking about how we gotta be careful about violence or whatever, but it's with his particular style. I guess listeners of this must be familiar with him from Power.
Mm-hmm.
So his stuff has a cartoonist's quality to it, where you can get away with maybe really graphic stuff, but also it's just more disturbing. It's everyone's kind of cute looking, and he's just ripped his jaw. Yeah, this is terrible. Put his jaw in.
Yeah.
Take his jaw.
I love how much it's so fun to do this book, and it's also crazy that I feel like we kind of snuck it in there. When we pitched Midnighter, the Future State, we came in with this wild idea that ended in a bootstrap paradox pinpoint back in time. And we're we're gonna put him in a regular DC continuity. And everyone was like, what? But our editor was into it. Jamie Rich, bless him, he was super into the idea, and he's like, we can make this work. So we're bringing this character from Future State. Somehow they let us bring him back into regular continuity.
Oh,
kind of sort things out. And
yeah.
So between you, me, and the Willow Tree, that's confirmation that Future State is part of regular continuity, right?
Oh,
yeah. If I'm gonna you're making a show. It all lines up. If this guy can travel back in time and end up in regular continuity, to me it says Immortal Wonder Woman could travel back in time, and that would hold up too. Pretty weird. I think it's the only thing in Future State that expresses that quality.
In my headcanon, it's Wonder Woman. It's from the past universe. It's so far in the future that it's gone back to the past, and the new universe that it creates is our universe.
Dang.
That's what I think. That's actually not what I think, but I.
That's a cool thing. Dang, we should have written it that way. But the thing is, we didn't have to write it.
Let's do a time travel.
Yeah.
No, I love that. I love that ending of the book. I think that going back to All-Star, a very All-Star Superman ending in that way too, just giving birth to the current universe.
Yeah, I was we were told we could tell a Future State Wonder World story. We were how far in the future though? How far in the future could this be?
They said just super far in the future.
And we're let's do it.
I guess maybe we're
time travel moment.
Maybe we're literalists, and we were what's super far in the future? I don't know when everything's dead.
The end.
When we showed up and we were alright, here's the elevator pitch. Wonder Woman, but she's got no one to talk to.
Just flying over to space, being lonely.
We'll have eternal dialogue. But thankfully, I can't believe we got away with it. I'm so glad that it exists.
I know, we got to
kill
Superman, we got to kill Darkseid.
It's an honor. I think years from now, when people are kind of reflecting on what Becky and I have contributed to Diana's legacy, that will be the thing where people are oh, do you remember that weird thing that they did right in the beginning, where they killed everyone? So
I love
We're
it.
kind of doing that with Midnighter.
Well, I know we're kind of pushing over an hour now, but before we wrap anything up, I did want to talk a little bit about Mystery School Comics Group. Because you two have been putting out some amazing shit through that entire line, dropping from pins to posters to books to everything in between. It's been kick-ass. I was wondering, I know you have some drops coming soon. Is there anything you can tell us about all that?
Well, tomorrow we've got a pin. I don't know if this is going to go live before tomorrow, but tomorrow on the Ides of March, we're putting up a new pin and a new patch and a new mini comic by a couple of our friends. So that's fun. It's great. It's a really nice way to keep it DIY, make things yourself. Conventions have kind of stopped for a bit. So we really were able to push a little harder on that because we had made so much stuff for cons. You know, we had like all this we have so much stuff. What do we do with it?
Yeah.
It's like, let's just put it online. And even though we had mystery school going before that, it kind of took off more this year because we were able to focus a little bit more on it.
Mm-hmm.
And we try to do like one day we just do mailing and emails and stuff like that. But yeah,
it's funny because like right now mystery school, I think to me it serves as like a place to house ideas. Like I have this thought like, oh, I can greenlight anything I want. Like I don't have to wait for permission from anyone. I don't have to check and see if it's going to get by the censors or if my editor will like it or if it's even if it's going to maybe not sell to anybody. I don't have to be super concerned about any of that stuff. And that's the truth that we all face. That's the real truth. I had a friend texting me earlier today being like, oh, put together a bunch of pitch packages and I'm like not getting much response from editors. I said, and I kind of regret saying this, but it was what I meant, and I still mean it. I was like, quit asking for permission. Quit waiting for somebody to tell you it's okay. To me, Mystery School is representative of that. I started Mystery School years and years ago when I was publishing myself and my friends, and I wanted a fake publisher name, so that when I showed my comic to people, I could be like, hey, I published by Mystery School Comics Group rather than published by me. I did this myself. There just felt to be like something grandiose about having a publisher. I no longer feel that way. I feel like if I just said, oh, I made this myself over at Kinko's, like, it's the same thing. But at the time, that's what it was. And since then, it's evolved and it's come to kind of just represent this place where Becky and I can do whatever we want to do without waiting for permission. And sometimes we'll bring in our friends' work. Like Becky was saying, we've got a mini comic coming out on Monday that is like the result of 4 years of hard work by my friend Bob and his partner Miles. It's called Dunes of Doom, and it's just it's like a bizarre, bleak future.
it's like a Yes album cover that's come to life.
Yeah, it's
like a prog rock comic book.
Yeah,
awesome.
And it's the type of thing that you wouldn't get from a conventional publisher. It's the type of thing that that you just do, and you hope that it finds a life. And that's so much of what Becky and I do is that kind of thing. She'll sometimes show me something. She's got these really cool like bat pins and patches going up tomorrow. She'll show me the image. It's like a skeleton of a bat, like you would see on a grave or something. She's like, "What do you think of that?" And I was like, "That's fucking awesome. Make things out of it." And that's what Mystery School Comics Group is we just try and make awesome things, and we hope that people like them as much as we like making them. We aren't getting rich off of it. Most of our things are priced at a point where hopefully there will be something on the site that you can get. And for the people that are into like collecting like nice prints and stuff like that, oftentimes when Becky will do something with Mondo or something, there will be a bunch of prints that she ends up with, and that's a place where collectors can go and kind of find stuff like that too. So stuff at a variety of different prices for different types of fans, and yeah, it's just like where we do our weird stuff. I haven't been doing as much with it lately because I've been focused on learning how to feel okay about working on these things that people are actually reading. But
he's got a new mini comic in the works.
I've got a mini comic it's about mukbang.
It's so crazy.
I don't know if you know what mukbang is, but it's such a gross word, but I feel that's compelling enough. So before the end of the year, I'll have a mukbang comic available.
Oh, hell yeah. We'll be there day one for that, for sure. That's...
I've got a mini comic on there called Unlucky, which is about a kid who gets kidnapped and has the luck milked out of his brain. Like, he's got this big dangling gland in the back of his head, and they cut open his head, and they like squeeze it out like a nutter, and they take all of his luck away, and then send him back out into the world. And Becky just referenced it the other day. She was like, I feel like I had my luck gland tucked on too.
Milk in my luck.
Yeah.
That's a weird thing to say, but
So I'm gonna say no publisher is ever gonna be like, yeah, we want to see like a.
we want more of this.
We want this blood get his luck milked out his brain.
That might end up being the title of the episode, to be fair. Milking Luck sounds amazing.
All this kind of milk luck.
That's right. Well, hey, Daniel, before we go to the outro or anything, you got any last questions or anything?
Not really. I'm excited about the future of Wonder Woman and Midnighter and anything else you guys are working on coming up. Thank you all for doing this. This is crazy cool to see you guys doing this. So.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we'll do it again once some of the other projects become public knowledge. We'll get back together and we'll just like. You can tell I like to talk anyway. Like, I always talk so much.
We appreciate that so much.
Cool. I'm sorry if I stepped on anybody. We'll get back together and we'll talk about some of the new projects and yeah, it's just cool to like talk to people that like we would like hang out with and shit. Like,
yeah.
Like, oh wow, actual human beings with like good hearts and are into cool shit.
Oh, thank you. Well,
it's real important.
Thank you so much for that. Where can the people find you on the Twitter and Instagram and all that stuff so people can see all the amazing things you guys do?
I'm at Becky Cloonan on Twitter and Instagram.
And I'm at Michael W. Conrad on Twitter and Instagrams.
Awesome. Well, I want to say, to anyone listening that isn't already following them, go follow them. If you like this podcast, you're going to love what they post. You're going to love what they do. Thank you to everyone listening. Thank you again for you two for giving us your time. I know you're extremely busy right now, and it means a lot to us to get you guys on here for like an hour and a half. That means the world to us, so thank you again.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
What?
You guys are beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Well, until next time, this has been Dangerous Humans. Go create some cool shit tonight for us. Thank you again, everyone listening. We love you guys. Peace out.